My name is Sue Solers, and I am calling in from Baltimore, Maryland.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a vice president, commercial banker. Been in banking 22 years, and I finance businesses for a living.
And how much you make a year doing that?
165,000 plus bonuses.
Awesome. What does your typical bonus look like?
My last one was 40, so it could be anywhere from, 10 to 60.
Projected annual income, about $200,000 a year?
Yeah, so like W2 would be 200,000.
Awesome. Phenomenal income then. And how long have you been doing that for?
I have been doing this for 22 years, since 2001, out of college.
And how would you kind of rate your current financial situation on a scale of 1 to 10? 1 being horrific, 10 being picture perfect.
I would say probably like an 8.
An 8. Okay. And why do you put yourself at an 8?
Because there's things, I made some financial mistakes early on in my 20s and my 30s. And so I'm still paying for that now in the Department of Retirement Savings. It's a time game, when you're investing. So I lost maybe 20 years of time making bad relationship decisions, getting with people that had really high debt, with, joint accounts while not being married, and the significant other ex would spend all my money. I've started a couple of businesses, failed miserably at several of them. And so my retirement is a reflection of that. My retirement savings.
So put yourself at an 8. Let's kind of go through current debts and current assets then. What are the current debts we have?
So the current debts that we have are my vehicle. I have a Lexus. It's at 0% interest. And I do have my mortgage. I do pay off all of my credit card monthly. So I do have a Chase credit card that I pay off monthly. And everything else is, I've got the gym membership. I've got all the normal expenditures like food, entertainment, everything everyone else has. But it's for me, I'm trying to decide if I should pay off my car or continue to leave the money in savings and, 4% interest.
Okay, so how much is left on the car right now?
$11,000.
$11,000. Okay. And is there any other debts we have?
Besides my mortgage? No.
Is the Sleep Number bed paid off?
Oh, wait, that's not paid off. There's $3,000 on that. You're right. You got it.
$3,000 on that, and that's a 0% interest rate too, right?
That's a 0% interest, yeah.
And what's the monthly payment on that?
Oh man, my husband pays it. I don't even know. I mean, we're planning to have it paid off in March with my bonus coming in this year. So it will be retired then anyway. Yeah, like I would say it's probably, I don't know, I'm going to guess $300 a month.
Okay, $300. Okay.
I'm going to guess. I have no idea. But yeah.
Okay, and touching on things, so you're married right now.
I am married.
Is it combined finances or y'all separate finances?
We separated finances based on my personal experiences. When I met my husband 9 years ago, I told him, if you want to marry me, that we'd have to keep our finances separate, just based on just having a bad, like I said, past situation with men. So
makes sense. Definitely past experience can do that. I'm more the boat of combining finances, but I can definitely understand if you've had past bad experiences with partners, then you want to protect yourself and keep things separate.
And it's worked out really good. A lot of people tell us that we're doing it the wrong way, but the bills are all paid. He has no debt. He does have a car payment. He does have a Ram pickup truck, but he just has the house too. So he's debt free besides the Sleep Number.
So is that technically his payment and not yours?
No, we pay 50-50. So I contribute 1/3 of the mortgage. He contributes 2/3. I pay my own car payment. He pays his own car payment. We both pay off our credit cards every month. And then we both contribute to the Sleep Number.
What's the reasoning behind you contributing 1/3 to mortgage and he's paying 2/3?
Because he's the man.
Does he make twice as much as you?
No. Well, he does have military income. He's retired military, so he has military income. I mean, and he makes 6 figures with the government. He works with the federal government. So I think when we first got together, he had more free cash flow than I did. But since we've been together, I've paid off all my debt.
And both of y'all on the mortgage and the deed for the house?
Yes.
Sounds like you're getting the better than the stick then if you're paying 1/3 of it and he's paying 2/3 of it.
Yeah. Well, it started that way, and you've got to let sleeping dogs lie. So my income has increased. If he doesn't say anything about it, why wake it up,
I would love to hear his viewpoint on that. It's funny. It's similar to my wife and I when we were right before we got engaged, we moved in together, and I finessed my way into paying less rent than she did when I got the entire guest bedroom for my office, and she was using the other bedroom for her office, where also our bed was. So I kind of finagled the cheaper rent. Oh, I think she paid probably like 60% or 65%, and I paid the remaining amount. But she brings up today and was like, I don't know how I let you get away with that. And I was like, I don't either, but we did, and it's in the past. We're married, and it doesn't matter now. So
Let me tell you what my husband did. He knew that I was like, in a bad relationship where somebody abused my financial situation. So he basically let me move in with him for free. So I lived with him for free while I was engaged to.
he probably has some different feelings. You're getting the good end of the sticker. You might have some different feelings on this that just haven't bubbled up to the surface. So we've got the Sleep Number bed and the Lexus. So $14,000 worth of debt there. No other debt, it sounds like, besides the mortgage, which is $500,000, it looks like.
Yes.
$500,000 on the house. So then in terms of assets, it looks like we've got the house is about $741,000 you put.
Yeah, and the rate on that interest is what I'm very proud of. It's 2.25%.
Nice.
But we're trying to pay it off in 15 years, so we know what the payment is that we have to make to get rid of it in 15 years.
Okay, awesome. And then it looks like, let's talk about other assets then. How much do we have in the bank account right now?
Yeah, so right under 80,000 is what I have in cash. He has about $300,000 in cash.
Why does he have $200,000 or $300,000 in cash? That sounds like a little bit too much cash there.
Yeah, but he doesn't have any investments though. We're kind of flip-flop where I have more in my 401k and he has like less, like maybe 50, but all the rest of it's all in cash. So when he saved all of his in cash. Does that make sense? Like we're kind of opposite.
That does. Okay. So he's got 200 or 300 in cash and then 50K in his investments. You've got about 80K in cash. And then in investments, I see a 529 that has about 20,000. And I see a 401k that's about $272,000.
Yeah, that's the most depressing number for me because that should say $1 million for my age being 46. In my own opinion, in my head, so.
If you start investing early and it definitely can be possible.
If I would not have taken out all of the money to start all those businesses when I was in my 20s and 30s, I would have that money borrowing against my 401k. And sometimes I'd leave a job and just spend my 401k. Like I made some bad decisions. And there's a reason why interest is what is it? How many wonders of the world is it? 7, like the 8th wonder of the world, they say.
Yep. So definitely is. So we've got, with your assets excluding the house, we have $371,000 worth of assets. Throw in I guess I'm not quite sure how to throw the house at it because it's both of y'all on it, but your finances are a little bit separate. So, we'll just throw the entire house value on it. So 741. So you have over $1 million worth of assets, and then total debts. We have the loan balance, which is 500,000, car loan, and the sleep number. So we got $514,000 worth of debt.
That sounds right.
So that puts your net worth to about $598,000. If we did half of the equity in the house, it would remove $100,000 some change. So you put you in about the $470,000 ballpark in terms of net worth.
I did do a personal financial statement for both of us, and we're a little over $1 million.
Yeah, great spot to be in at 46 years old, and ability to grow that tremendously, especially with your income. So great. Well, that's a good spot to be. Definitely have some questions in terms of it because we've got the debt and the assets, but I kind of want to learn more about you before we dive into it. But overall, first glance, 46 years old, net worth combined with your husband over $1 million. By yourself, you're just at about 500,000, which is great. Let's talk about just your childhood and upbringing. Where'd you grow up and what was your childhood like?
I'm a military brat. I'm half Korean and half African American. So my mother was married for 10 years to my dad that served in the military on the enlisted side. She was just a saver. My mother believed in paying for your cars outright and having no debt. So to this day, she owns commercial and residential real estate. She was a beautician for 20 plus years, and she has absolutely no debt and is 100% cash flow. And she's always been a financial mentor of mine to always tell me to pay down debt. That's always been her thing. And that quite frankly, she's the reason that I am a banker and I chose banking for my career. Just listening to how she manages things. So she's always very tight with money. She, would make you squeeze that toothpaste out like all the way to the end. She would make sure you didn't waste food, clothing. I guess you could almost call her quasi hoarder. My husband would say she's a hoarder. And he has had to change my mindset because I won't throw anything away. I don't want to waste anything. I'm that person that's going to put water in my shampoo and shake it up and use the last bit. I'm that person. And just trying to teach my children and my kids and my friends and my family to be more studious with their finances has always been my goal. So I asked my mother the same advice, and she told me because I'm making 4% on my savings account to just leave it as is. But when I read finance books like Susie Orman, Dave Ramsey, you name them, they're always saying pay off any debt. Like that should be your first thing before you invest in retirement and before you do your education plans for your children. And so that's where I'm like, I have been in this weird, financial purgatory with myself, trying to decide what to do.
That definitely makes sense. But it sounds like your mom has kind of helped build up a great foundation for finances. And frankly, that's not typical in most households. Most parents don't really talk to their kids about money or help them kind of set them up for success financially, which is awesome that your mother has done that. Do you remember when she started like talking to you about money growing up at all?
I do. I remember when I was in 5th grade and I was going to a book fair, I was really like excited. And I asked, I had, I think I had $10, which was a lot back then, over 20 years ago. And so I brought all these really pretty bookmarks because I would read and I would have these really pretty bookmarks. They'd have poems or they would have, unicorns, whatever. And I would come home and mom's like, what'd you do with your money? And I showed her all the bookmarks I got. And my mom said something to me that was profound, which is, you could have used $1 for your bookmark and you would still have, $9 left. And so that even at, a young age stuck with me. And it was something that I was like, interesting. Although, I like the sparkly bookmarks, markers, I didn't care at that time, but it made sense to me. And that was something that she always, that's always kind of been resonated, or, looking at clothing and say, well, how often could you actually wear that? If it's a yellow shirt and you pay $100 and you wear it one time, it costs you $100. But if you buy a black shirt and you wear it 100 times, it costs you $1. So she would ingrain those types of things in my head. So when I go shopping, I still think, what's the likelihood I'm going to wear this X amount of times? And then, the goal is to get it down to $1 to $1 to $5, So
as you grew up, did you ever witness your parents make any financial mistakes that you kind of learned from?
My mother she was, I think, a saver to an extreme. My mom grew up on a farm. She didn't have money. She didn't actually really go to school until she came to the United States. She had to learn English and then go and get her beautician license. So she never had any money. She never had things. She never went to prom. She never did all the things that, we were able to do here. And I think she is such an extreme that my husband has to remind me that, hey, you can live a little, like you can't die with all this. You have to spend some of it. And I'm telling my mother the same thing. I'm like, Mom, if you don't spend it, something happens to you, I'm going to spend it. And then she'll go, okay, well, we need to do that. Or we need to. So she's starting to be a little bit different too, but it's almost an extreme. So I would say she's probably the extreme saver, the extreme, and my father was the extreme spender. These two people were married for 10 years and you had both spectrums. One's always saving, one's always spending. And then when my parents divorced, my dad spent all of his money within 3 months. My mom still had all of her money and started a beauty salon with it. So yeah, and then after that, each building in her strip mall subsequently came available, and she bought the left, the right until she owned the whole strip mall, owned the land next to it, then bought the next strip mall. And then she had a lot of opportunities that came to her. There were a lot of business people in trouble, friends that owned apartment complexes that were having tax problems, and they would just give it to her for 25 cents on the dollar just to pay the IRS. So that's how she ended up owning an apartment complex and more real estate and land and all these different things, is because she was able to, have opportunities to benefit because she had cash. And so, there's a reason why we say cash is king, right? So
done in a smart approach to not over leveraging yourself. You said your mom kind of pushed you towards being a banker. Did she kind of push you towards studying finance in college, or what was college like? Do you study? I'm assuming you studied finance at least.
I actually was a business major, so finance wasn't my major, but it was business. I actually joined the military when I was 17. I was a runaway teen. And I joined the military because I got tired of sleeping on people's couches. That was probably the first time I ever heard my mother say she was proud of me, when I was at basic training and basic training graduation. And so did 4 years in the Air Force. I would say that in terms of why my mother used to complain about the bank, when I used to work at her beauty salon, sweep hair and help her in every way, because she would stack her clients. She'd have 4 clients and, be bouncing them around. But she would always complain about working with the bank. She always was upset about working with the bank. And that was something that I felt like I wanted to change, within, I guess you could say she's Asian American, so her English isn't the best. And I've just seen things happen to her with dealing with, the finance company and them not understanding her and her not understanding that. That made me want to bridge that gap within the community, both for African Americans, for Asian Americans, just, to give them information they otherwise wouldn't have. I mean, there's a lot in terms of financial education, and I feel like, it's my mission to kind of give back to the community in that way.
Yeah, no, I love that. Financial education, there can't be enough in this world because there's a lack of financial education in schools and colleges and high schools and homes. So you're trying to help people with their finances. That's why I started this podcast, try to help people with their finances.
What recommendations do you have for me? I know you're the question answer, but I was just curious, like, is there something else I could be doing? I mean, what's your take?
Yeah, so I want to dive through your monthly expenses first. We're going to dive through those, and then I want to look at those and give you some recommendations on that, because I definitely have some different recommendations off the bat, but I kind of want to look through and everyone too to see, like, okay, what is someone that has a net worth of over $500,000, $1 million with her husband, what do they spend money on? What does it look like? And it looks like going through the budget you sent over to me, you said, it looks like you're doing a 5% match, you're putting money in a Roth, have $1,300 a month in your mortgage payment. That's your part.
My third.
You have your third. You have your Lexus. You have home cleaning, which is $480. You have $400. Is that towards college? That saving for college?
Yeah, that's for my daughter's 529 plan.
Okay, so I counted the 529 plan as part of your assets, but that's going to be using for your daughter's education. Technically, it's an asset, but an asset that will be most likely spent. So
yeah,
gas bill $175, Audible $11. Dropbox and Powerhouse. So
that's the gym. Got to stay, fit.
You put savings. You put in $910 away each month in savings. Is that what you put that there for?
Yeah, that's just general petty cash savings.
So your monthly expense you have on here, this doesn't account for food and stuff, but it's $3,000. And then we got food and shopping or whatever else you might spend some money on. But looking at your spending accounts, let's see. This account started $8,000. You added $8,000 more, but withdrew $16,000 out of this account. So looks like you wrote a check for $3,779 on December 7th. What was that for?
Oh yeah, I painted my house.
Okay.
The inside of my house, it was $10,000.
You paid a third?
No. Well, I paid half. I paid half. He paid half.
Okay. We got that. We've got a credit card payment, which was $4,200. We've got you Zelled. Is Royce? Who's Royce?
That's my husband. That's the $1,300 I have to give him.
Okay, that's your mortgage payment then. Okay. You got your gas bill. We got another credit card payment for $3,700. So you spent, I guess one was on the 6th of December, the other on the 2nd. So $4,200 one month, $3,700 the next month, but paying that off in full, which is good. But not much spending on this account alone. It's really just those transactions, payments, and the paint. And then on your credit card, okay, so this is the credit card. You had a balance going into it of $2,800. You paid $6,800 and then purchased $5,417. So spent a lot of money this month.
But you know what? You're looking at a statement, right? You're looking at December statement. It was Christmas.
Yes, but also every single time, whether it's July, September, October, every single person I talk to is like, hey, last month was the most money I ever spent in my life. And I'm like, that's what everyone says, and that can't always be true. Gonna just call that one out as well. I do agree, typically November, December is a little bit higher because of Thanksgiving and Christmas, but it still is a lot.
I do spend a lot of money, yes, I do.
I mean, on this $5,400 is not a small sum of money, but given that your net income you should be getting about $10,000 a month after 401k and all that still, right? Would you know what your pay stubs are?
Yeah.
What's your total net income on your pay stubs?
It changed because I took my retirement savings in December and switched it to January. I went from 5% to 15%.
Okay.
So I was netting $4,300 every 2 weeks. And then now, because I increased it from 5 to 15%, I'm netting like $3,800 every 2 weeks.
About $7,600 then.
But if you look at my budget that I sent you, I also do have income from the military, disability, and then I have income from my child. I call that my baby daddy income.
Okay, I see that now.
So I do have ancillary income.
Yeah, at this you're bringing $9,400 a month on here, which looks like it should be after the 401k because I see that's January 16th as well, $3,700. So okay, so just over $9,000 a month, accounting for all your different income. So yeah, spending $5,400 on a credit card in a month is a lot of money, but living below your means, which is still good. I mean, $5,400 here plus whatever your mortgage payment on the other side.
I put all my food on there. Every expense goes on my Hyatt credit card, and I'll tell you why I do it that way. And it's not because everybody else needs to do it. This is my own psychotic thing. So I have a Chase Hyatt credit card, which is, Hyatt hotels. Every expense goes on there because number one, I get reporting at the end of the year. So I know from year to year, if my income for food has increased, whatever. I know I can go back in an accounting system and see it directly because I could download the statements. They give me an annual report on my spending. The second reason I do that is because Hyatt gives me free rooms. So for every $5,000 I spend, I get a free room night. So we take family vacations and I don't pay for hotel. Usually I don't pay for 15 nights of hotels or annually. So we're able to travel. The only expense we have is the flight.
Yeah, I mean, credit cards, you can definitely play the reward game, and it sounds like you're playing it and there's no interest in anything charged on here. The issue I have with credit cards, I mean, I do use a credit card personally myself, but the issue I have with credit cards, a lot of people, obviously it's not you in this case, most people will say, hey, I want to play the reward game like you're playing, and then they find themselves in credit card debt. I mean, credit card debt in America is over $1 trillion right now. Probably 99% of the people that open up those credit cards said, hey, I'm going to pay this off in full every single month, and I'm going to earn free rewards, and that ends up not happening. So it can be a game to play, but it can also be one that crushes.
It doesn't work. But I will say this is the reason why it works, or I've made it work. You know how some people wait to the very end and do one payment? I do two. So I think I do it more frequently. I used to do it weekly. I just went to every 2 weeks, but I used to pay it off weekly. Like every Friday I paid off my credit card. I know that sounds psychotic, but then I was like, okay, that's a little psychotic. I'll just pay it off when I get paid. So what I do is this, I know how much I get paid. I remember I told you I get paid $4,200, $4,300. Well, now I'm getting paid $38. I just make sure that does not exceed what's coming in.
I guess I'm on the psychotic side because I pay my credit card definitely more than twice a month.
That's awesome. Okay. How often do you pay yours?
I don't have like a set schedule. I'll just like it never usually gets to the auto pay date. Usually I'll pay it 2 or 3 or 4 times throughout the month at least. Especially like when I have like a big expense come in. I don't like it sitting there at $2,000 or $3,000. I'm just like, I'd rather just get that on my bank account and just pay it off and be done with it.
Well, Dave Ramsey doesn't like that at all. He says no credit cards because he says when you charge, you spend 20 to 30% more.
Which frankly, I wouldn't argue. I'm a big Dave Ramsey fan. That's why how I started my personal finance journey was I took his class when I was in high school. He would call me Davish because I do use a credit card, so I don't follow him to a T to that degree. But I would assume for 90% plus of people that use credit cards, they probably would spend less money if they used a debit card.
He does have a point. And then Susie Orm is different. She says, as long as you pay it off, you're good.
That's about what I'm in. But the issue is a lot of people think they're going to pay it off and then life happens and they don't. So
yeah, life can happen.
It can be a dangerous game. But I mean, looking through your expenses on here, I mean, it looks like there's food on here. Looks like you went out of town. A lot of food in here, actually.
I spend a lot of money on food. I spend like between $220 and $250 a week, sometimes $300.
Yep, I see those. TJ Maxx, $170. HEB, you spend $405 1 week.
Yeah, because I was at home and I had an Airbnb and I invited my whole family over to eat with me for a week. So, but normally it's not that much. The reason why I know every time I go to the grocery store, it's between $200 and $300 is because if there is a sale,
you go crazy when there's sales.
I buy only when the stuff is on sale. For example, I like Coda cakes, protein, waffles. Well, if I see that they're on sale at $1.50 off, I am going to buy 10 or 15 of them. I'm not going to buy one of them.
There's nothing I'm too concerned about at all. Obviously, you're living below your means. You're paying it off in full, invest in the difference. A lot of people I talk to, they don't know how much they're spending. I guess my one question for you is, in terms of budgeting, you send me a beautiful spreadsheet that has a lot of different, for your net worth, all your different loans, stuff like that. Do you ever track your individual expenses on a monthly basis using any tools, or do you kind of just make sure that, hey, at the end of each month, I'm paying this off and I have money left over in my checking account after I get paid?
Tracking. What do you mean by that? Yeah, I guess, this is how I do it. I think I understand what you mean. I don't just like charge and never look at my balance type of thing. So Chase emails me every day my balance. I get my balance emailed every day, every single day. So I know where I'm at. I think that's the thing, because I think if you just spin, it just goes up. And most people spend more than they think they do, because it's $5 here, $10, $20. But then you're like looking at your credit card, it's $300. You're like, ah. So for me to feel good about myself, I get an email every morning that tells me what my balance is. And I'm like, can't go beyond $3,800. So that's the way I track it, if that makes any sense. And if there's any charges more than a certain amount of money, it sends me an alert.
That makes sense. And it works for the right person. It sounds like you're making it work. For a lot of people, I feel like that route wouldn't be as good. But what I more mean is typically what I do, I use an app called Copilot, and I'll link my bank accounts, my credit cards to it. And it'll categorize, hey, this is groceries, hey, this is shopping, hey, this is rent or mortgage, or this is taxes, or whatever it might be. And it'll categorize stuff so I can log in on a given basis. I can say, okay, I spent $1,100 on food this month, and my budget for this month is $1,300. That means if I'm going out this weekend, I have $200 left for this last weekend in January to eat foods and for groceries and eating out. So, okay, now I'm going to spend $100 on Sunday at the grocery store, so I have $100 to eat out Friday and Saturday. And so that's what I mean on budgeting, like every single transaction, categorizing it.
I have to wait till the end of the month to see my statement. But I just think I stay within, like I said, my grocery bill, my gas bill is the same. Like I know what my expenses are. I have them memorized, but I like the way you're thinking about it. Like, okay, I've spent this portion of my budget. I only have this left. That's a good way to do that. But yeah, I track manually. I used to use a program through Intuit.
Mint,
that's right.
I was a big fan of Mint, but they're shutting it down in March, and they're moving everyone to Credit Karma, and they don't have budgeting capabilities with it. So I just moved to a platform called Copilot. Frankly, I love the new platform. It's $100 a year, but it categorizes stuff, frankly, pretty well. And I set it up December 30th or 31st to kick off the new year for just a clean break. I've been loving it. And it just helps me to see how much money I'm spending every single month. So like my wife and I, next month, we know we're traveling in February. I know that I need to not spend as much money eating out in January or towards the end so we can save up and roll over some money, a couple $100 from January into February, because we know we're going to be traveling and eating out. But it gives me a much better overarching picture than if I just looked at our statements. To your point, $10 transaction, $30 transaction, $50 transaction. I don't know how much money we've actually spent on a given category. And I like knowing how much I'm spending in every single category.
I like that.
That's why I like doing it. So that's definitely one suggestion I would give to you is like, yes, right now you're living every single month, you're paying your credit card bill off in full, but you don't know how much money you spend on food, how much money you spend on these things. And that way, if you know how much money you spend on food, say you're spending $1,500 a month on food, and you're like, hey, that's absurd. I should be spending $1,200 so I can allocate $300 towards traveling, or I can allocate more money to something else. And it just gives you a better picture of it just for financials and for planning. So, hey, we have a trip coming up, or hey, we want to go to a concert or something. How do I need to save money for that on a given basis? So one suggestion I have is just make sure that you're budgeting on a monthly basis and categorizing it in different sections, because you never know how much money you actually spend in different categories, and it can be easy to overspend in one category versus another, and it just gives you a better overarching picture of your monthly finances.
And I like the suggestion you gave me because it's something that I can change. Because like I said, I got annual. I can get my stuff monthly and annual, but on an ongoing making an adjustment throughout the month. That's something that's a good takeaway for me. So thank you.
No, 100%. And then other things, we'll talk about the Lexus and the Sleep Number bet currently. So this is an ongoing debate. People will have this debate all the time because it's a 0% interest rate.
I know.
And you have a high yield savings account. What's your high yield savings account getting you right now?
It's giving me 4%.
4%. Okay. So you're getting 4% in your high yield savings account. And this loan matures in
October
18 months, 20 months, something about that. So 18 months, and it's $11,000 on the car, and you're sitting at a 4% in your high yield savings account. So in theory, that should earn you $440 over the next 12 months at a 4% interest rate versus paying it off today. $440 is $36.67 a month. So you're arbitraging basically right now by keeping it in your high yield savings account, $36 a month. But guess what? The beautiful thing is that's before taxes are accounted for. So money in your high yield savings account is taxed as normal income because it's short-term, basically capital gain at that point. So really, if you're paying 30% 8% taxes on it, we'll call it roughly, between everything,
Let's say that. Yeah.
you're really keeping that monthly payment around for $25.67 a month.
That's right there, the math that I didn't do. And that's why I'm in such a tizzy with it. And so thank you for that.
And so my take on it, I've had this debate with family, I've had this debate with friends, and it's like, yes, you can mathematically arbitrage it and earn your extra 4% or 5%, even if you're earning a 5% rate in your high yield savings account, it's still $32 after taxes a month. And frankly, in my opinion, I'd rather just get rid of it than sit here and worry about making an extra $30 a month. And then on the sleep number bed, I mean, that is over 12 months is $8.75 a month at a 5% rate. So it's like, is it really worth keeping around so you just have to even worry about making the payment? Or if you miss the payment because whatever reason, then you get charged an exorbitant fee that doesn't even make sense to keep it going. So I'm more in the ballpark of, or don't keep those around, pay them off. What is $500 before taxes going to change your life over the next 12 months on this Lexus? So over the next 18 months, maybe it's an extra $200. So maybe it's $700, but it's still, again, it's $32 a month after taxes. Is that worth keeping the payment around? Or is it worth, hey, I don't care about the $32. I'd rather get that $600 a month in cash flow back in my pocket. Frankly, I'm in the position or thought process of I would rather get that cash flow back in my pocket. So between the Lexus and the Sleep Number bed, $900 a month in payments to make $40 more a month, I'd rather my $900 back in cash, like cash flow back every single month, than arbitraging it for $40-something. That's all a personal opinion. I've had this debate. My brother called me one time and asked me about what my take was on 0% interest rate car loans. And I spent probably an hour building out like a Excel spreadsheet showing him the difference of paying a car in cash, putting in a high yield savings account, investing it at 7 or 10%, accounting for taxes on the high yield savings account and stuff, and like materially doesn't affect your life. I mean, even if it's a $60,000 or $100,000 car, it's frankly not going to materially affect your life. I mean, if you can afford a $100,000 car and you can put in a high yield savings account of 5%, then after taxes, you're probably in a higher tax bracket than 30%. You're probably, if you're buying a $100,000 car, hopefully at least you're not buying that making $100,000. But like, it's not materially going to change your life. So why worry about the monthly payment ever and just get it off the books?
Yeah.
I'm personally in the anti-debt world when it comes to car loans and stuff like that, because it just causes people to spend more money than they have. Obviously, you have discipline to be able to save in your investing money, but at the end of the day, arbitraging it for $40, $50, $6, is it worth it?
When I could have my extra $600 a month. Yeah, you're right.
Because I personally care more about cash flow than I do $30 a month and arbitraging something. So
yeah, you're right. I like your idea. And I did have a plan. I do get, I get my bonuses in March from my financial institution. And so my next bonus, I just got a Christmas bonus. And so I'm going to retire the car note. That's my first, and then the Sleep Number.
So when's that bonus coming in?
I'm going to say it's going to either be the 15th. It's probably going to either be the second or the last paycheck in March.
Okay, so that is 60 days from now. So you're going to earn an extra $100 keeping your high yield savings account. So my question for you is, why wait until March until that bonus comes in versus use the $80,000 you have in cash right now to pay it off, and then that money goes to replenish your savings when it comes in?
Yeah, and I'm glad you asked that question, because I don't ever plan. I mean, I don't ever plan on ever losing my job, but I think to myself, like, okay, for example, I said, let's just use 4,000 just because that's an easier number. So 8,000, I need $8,000 a month if I lose my job. So the money is, I got let's just say $70,000. So I say to myself, okay, well, I've got a year if something happens to me to find a new job, right? Or, I mean, I could have a life event, like a serious life event happen. So my goal, I have another goal that you don't know about, which is to get my mother told me I need to get to 100. Before I do anything else, she wants me to get to 100,000 in my general savings. And so I've been kind of working on that goal, but also trying to say, I want a year of my salary in my goal. I mean, in my checking account savings account that I don't touch, because it helps me sleep well at night. And so when I see that number decrease, not only that, a lot of that cash was a property that I sold. I bought a house when I was 23, and I had it for almost 30 years. I had the house for about 25 years, and I sold it, and I profited about 70 grand. And that is from that house. And so I paid the taxes and all that. But at the end of the day, I don't ever want to lose it because it took me like 25 years to make that. That's why I don't touch that money. Like, if you want to know what's emotional behind it.
I totally get it. I mean, having a fully funded emergency fund, but also I'll play devil's advocate here. Your monthly burn goes down $900 a month, which is $10,800 a year by getting rid of the car payment. So you don't need $70,000 for a year. You need $60,000 because you just eliminated $10,000 in payments.
Oh my God. That is such a different perspective.
Yes. Inherently still be in the same spot because we go from $80,000 to $70,000. But guess what? Your monthly expenses go from $8,000 down to $7,100, which is a $10,000 difference.
Oh my God. Yes. And I didn't think about that.
It is the same thing because guess what? If you lose your job, I can promise you also you're not going to spend $8,000 because you're not going to go and spend however much money on traveling and food and everything else in between doing that.
Oh no, I'm going to lockdown status.
You'd be going lockdown mode on that. And so really that $70,000 will last longer for you.
I will be downloading that app that you told me.
Yes, it makes sense from a comfort perspective. Hey, I want to save this money, not use it to pay off the debt. But at the same time, all you're doing is decreasing your liabilities, which is $14,000. You're decreasing your monthly expenses that are guaranteed. If you lose your job, you're still going to have to make those payments if you still have the car loan. And you're also decreasing your burn that you need to have a fully funded emergency fund. So in my eyes, it kind of offsets each other. And yes, I understand having a comfortable $80,000 in your bank account sounds better than $70,000. But you also have $80,000 in your bank account when you owe people $14,000. So it's basically just trying to play an arbitrage game back to the point of 5% on $11,000 a year is $550, about $32 a month after taxes. You're just trying to play an arbitrage game at that point when, again, I can't convince you to do this. I can't make you do it, but I personally would just get rid of it, not have to think about it, and it's just a different perspective.
It just makes so much sense.
If it was $300,000, $500,000,
that's different.
It's different. It's a completely different game.
It's my husband's money. It's different.
But when it's that small of a number, I'm personally in the boat of, hey, let's get it paid off and be done with it. And then that opens up cash flow, which then you can replenish your savings a lot quicker too. That's extra don't go spend that money. That'd be stupid.
No, I'm going to replenish my savings with it. That's exactly what I'm going to do with it.
Yeah, go put that $900 back in your savings every single month and can build it up even quicker. So
I'm going to do that.
If it's a house loan, like your house loan at 2.25%, if you had $2 million sitting in cash or investments you wanted to pay off to open up the cash flow, yes, that could be a different picture. But right now, I think it's a great goal to, hey, let's pay it off in 15 years, or hey, we want to pay this off in 15 years. Instead of paying it off every single month, we pay the minimum payment and then we invest the difference into a separate like housing fund. You could go that route too and say, okay, you can do two routes with that if you want to pay it off 15 years. Option one, pay an extra $1,000 or $2,000, whatever the mathematical number is, towards the principal every single month and pay that down directly. Or, hey, we're going to arbitrage this, put it into index funds in a taxable brokerage account, put in that same exact amount in that taxable brokerage account. So in theory, in 15 years, it will have earned hopefully 7 to 10% versus the 2.5%. And then you can play that arbitrage game, which is obviously $500,000 is a lot more meaningful amount, but that's what you can do on the house side if you want to do that. Because it's such a low interest rate. If it was like a 7% interest rate or like a 6% or 5%, I'd say, hey, pay it down directly. Given it's 2.25, that is something that you can be more lenient on the arbitrage game because it is a larger balance. So
that's the reason why I'm never leaving this house, that rate.
But then again, I mean, even paying it down, paying off over time, I mean, if you're paying $1,300 a month yourself, your husband's paying $2,600, $4,000 a month. So I'm assuming after property taxes, up probably $2,500 to $3,000 is principal and interest, I'm assuming.
Something like that, I think.
$36,000 a year that I think is a great goal to pay it off at some point in 15 years, because then that's $36,000 that opens back up into your cash flow every single year. So
yeah, he wants to retire when he's like 50. And I told him the house had to be paid off. And so he's figuring out how to get the house paid off.
I think that's a great goal because guess what? You want to retire? It's great to have a paid off house. You don't have $3,000 a month coming out of your paycheck every single month or your bank account to do that. And I think that's a great goal for everyone to have, is have a house paid off faster than 30 years. Get a 30-year term if you want to, but paid off quicker, because I can promise you it's a better feeling to have a paid off house than waking up when you're refinancing every 10 years, every 20 years, and having a mortgage still when you're 80 years old or 70 years old. So something to think about, and I think it's a great goal to work towards. Obviously, I would be, like you're doing, you're putting 15% of your income in retirement accounts first. I would do that first and foremost before we start paying down the house aggressively, which you're already doing that, and then go the route of paying down if you want. So, but I mean, that's my biggest, I guess, suggestion to you is budgeting, finding a tool that kind of helps there when it comes to the low interest, small consumer debt with the car and the Sleep Number. I wouldn't wait till March, and I wouldn't sit here and play the arbitrage game because it's such an unmeaningful amount of money.
And I've been in this financial purgatory thinking about this. This tortures me. This has been torturing me for like a year. What do I do? Do I do this? Do I do this? Do this? And I ask so many different people. I ask my husband, I ask my mom, I ask my dad. Like I ask so many different people. And I keep getting the one, oh, just leave your money in there. Like I keep getting that. And so it was good for me to hear you talk about, the real difference there, right?
My last suggestion to you, Sue, before we wrap things up would be, you're doing a great job investing. I would just continue to figure out you said your husband wants to retire, and I don't know what your timeline is, but just make sure that you start running. I run these analysis all the time. It's like, find a compound interest calculator. Okay, you have $272,000 in your investment account, your 401k. How much money do you need to comfortably retire to have a safe withdrawal rate? What does that look like? How much money do you need to invest every single month to get there? And then backtrack that to make sure that you're kind of meeting those marks. And if that means that putting an extra $900 a month towards your investment account will help, then guess what? Paying off those debts to have that cash flow could help you get to that point. So those are things. My last suggestion of that is just figure out what does that look like. Understand what your number is. Obviously, that changes with kids, with where you want to live, with paying down the house, but just kind of run those numbers and figure out if this is the goal, what are the steps you need to do to get there? And you have a great foundation, great base, you and your husband both, for getting to that point. It's now just figuring out, do you need to up it at 20% you need to invest a month? Is it 21%? Is it 15%? And figure out just what those numbers are and put those in place in your current finances. So
yeah, and my husband, because I increased my investments to 15, he did too recently. So he has increased his 401k contributions to 15%. I've already ran some models, and I think based on my models, I need between both of us, we need 3.3 million to maintain this level of lifestyle, including inflation, etc. So we kind of have our number, but at the same time, I'm like, anytime I can get a free model or run a calculator, I always love doing that. So any suggestions you have, I always like to compare and contrast with people.
Yeah, I run all sorts of different spreadsheets and stuff for that same number. And my wife and I have this debate right now because we're trying to figure out what is our number, because we don't have kids right now. And I don't know how much kids are going to cost us when we have kids.
Oh, God.
And I know they're more expensive than you think they're going to be.
Oh, you wait till you get that daycare bill.
Exactly. You got daycare, which is crazy. Who knows? We're going to have 1 kid, 2 kids, 3 kids, 4 kids. I don't know that either. Can't predict the future. So it's like, those are things that we were talking about the other day. Actually, like, we know what like our fire number is. Like, well, I'm not going to retire. I'm a workaholic. I work 24/7, but we know what we could comfortably live off of if we never made another dime, just us two, and still live the exact same lifestyle we have now. But how does that change once we have kids? How does that change per kid? I'm not going to sit here and make my decisions off of having 1 or 4 kids based off of that. Personally, I want 3 kids, but I don't know how much kid A, B, or C is going to cost me. I don't know how much daycare is going to cost 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 7 years from now.
We haven't even started talking about their sports.
And it's insane. And college is a whole different topic because I want to help my kids pay for college, and I'm not going to go pay for them to go to out-of-state university, go get a journalism degree that costs $80,000 a year.
Right.
But do I want to help them go to a good business school that's in state that can help them get a good financial education? Yes, I want to do that. So these are the type of things that we constantly have debates, and I try to figure out what is the perfect model for that. And I haven't found the perfect solution for that.
Well, there's a book for people 55 and up that Susie Orman wrote. It's really good. You've got to check it out. I'm listening to the audio book, but it also comes with the physical book as well. But one thing I would say for you is you have time on your side, because life expectancy is 72 years old for, I guess, the average American. I think for women specifically, I want to say it's 75. We tend to live 3 or 4 years longer than men do. And so, my gosh, if I could be in your shoes, if I could have that, I call it runway that you have, my goodness, you're going to be amazing.
And it's fortunate I have time on my side, but also in today's age, I want everything I want now. So it's a constant battle. I know I'll be okay, but also it's like I want to be able to do these things now or be able to do X, Y, and Z now. So
you're still in the wedding phase too. I don't know if all your friends have gotten married yet, but boy, just 3 or 4 of those weddings a year could set you back.
Trust me, we got married in 2022. So we got married just about 18 months ago. We had about 5 weddings last year, and I think we have 8 weddings this year. So we're going to spend like at least $10,000 this year on traveling to weddings, at least. That's what we've accounted for. So yes, it's wedding season and it's out of control.
See, and I'm in my 40s where I've got friends that are on their second and third marriage. And I said, I'm paying to go to one wedding. You get divorced. You're on your own after that. So I love being the wedding guest. I'm always volunteering like, no, I don't want to be in the part. Can I be a guest?
Yeah, it's wedding season. Then right after that, it's going to start becoming baby season with baby showers and everything else in between. So
yeah, you're in the best time of your life. Wish you much success.
thank you. Well, Sue, really do appreciate you coming on here today, being open and honest about your finances. And frankly, you've done a great job getting to where you are now. And I think some fine tuning with budgeting a little bit with different things to understand where exactly everything is going. Just continuing to invest, figuring out what your plan is for retirement, for, like you told your husband, paying off the house. And then the only big suggestion, not really big suggestions, but in my opinion, I wouldn't play the arbitrage game with the $14,000 with interest-free debt. That's just not who I am and not what I would want to do. Being worth over $1 million with your husband is $300, $500 a year is not going to change your life. So why play around with it and get that $900 back in cash flow? And that way your emergency fund doesn't have to be as big. So
there you go.